October 4th, 1957. Cheers of celebration echoed through Russia. The Soviet scientists have done it! They've launched the first satellite, Sputnik 1, into orbit around the Earth. Just as Sputnik 1 hurled itself around the globe, so did its news. November 3rd, 1957. 1 month after Sputnik 1 was launched, the Soviet scientists outdid themselves again and launched Sputnik 2. Unlike Sputnik 1, Sputnik 2 wasn't the only thing to enter space that day. Laika, a small dog, rode inside Sputnik 2 and became the first living thing from Earth to enter the final frontier. The little beeping emulated by Sputnik 1 was the big bang of the starter's gun to the great space race.
CBS Television presents a special report on Sputnik 1, the Soviet space satellite. Douglas Edwards reporting.
Until 2 days ago, that sound had never been heard on this Earth. Suddenly, it has become as much a part of 20th century life as the whir of your vacuum cleaner. It's a report from man's farthest frontier.
These two hunks of metal gave the United States the kick it needed to finally begin exploring the stars. January 31st, 1958. America was able to launch its first satellite into orbit, Explorer 1. Rocket fever had swept the nation by then, and President Eisenhower established the National Aeronautics and Space Administration, or NASA, for short. As time moved on, Russia and America continued to be at each other's throats. Russia would launch something, then America would try and outdo them. For example, on April 12, 1961, the Russian cosmonaut Yuri Gagarin became the first man to orbit the Earth. Then 24 days later, Alan B. Shepard became the first American in space. However, not all missions were successful. While a couple were hilarious mistakes, like that of the Russian satellite Luna 1, which was supposed to orbit the moon, got a little off course and ended up being the first man-made object to orbit the sun. However, some were not, like the first astronauts to lose their lives on the job, the crew of Apollo 1 who died in a fire on their module. After years of progress and mistakes, the United States of America finally won the space race to the moon. Neil Armstrong, Edwin Buzz Aldrin, and Michael Collins of Apollo 11 became the first men to reach and land on the moon. Today, Armstrong's first steps and famous words are still treasured in the hearts of many.
I'm going to step off the limb. That's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
While all of these aforementioned achievements are spectacular in their magnitude, scope, and implications, it's important to remember why these events took place. Why did the Soviets spend years of development time in order to launch a satellite that, in and of itself, did nothing but broadcast a few radio beeps to the people of Earth? Why did the Americans spend what would now be worth more than $100 billion to send some people to plant a flag in some dust? In 1962, when President Kennedy made the declaration that by the end of the decade, America would put a man on the moon, America's space program was lagging behind that of Russia. The Soviets had beaten America to nearly every space exploration milestone reached by humans at the time, putting into orbit a satellite and a dog in 1957, and a man in 1961. Why did this matter enough for Kennedy to make such a bold declaration? To answer this question, we have to look at how the Cold War was fought. As hot as the fighting was in Vietnam and Korea, the Cold War was truly a war of propaganda, fought in the hearts and minds of people all over the world. The true goal of the Apollo program was not to put a man on the moon, but to show off to the Third World, the general term for countries that were not allies of the US or the USSR, the technological prowess of America and the great advancements in technology that capitalism could bring them. The US did as much as possible to announce to the world that victory in the space race to the moon demonstrated the superiority of capitalism as an economic system and democracy as a governmental one. Through the media of the US at the time, the grandiosity of space exploration was broadcast to the world.
Space, the final frontier. These are the voyages of the starship Enterprise. Its 5-year mission, to explore strange new worlds, to seek out new life and new civilizations, to boldly go where no man has gone before.
Gene Roddenberry's Star Trek was originally aired in 1966, and it claimed that space was the final frontier, implying that to conquer space was to achieve the greatest accomplishment in human history. Kennedy's statement was not a decree directed at the American people, but rather to the rest of the world. That's what the space program was about in its early years. That's why it was not just the American and Soviet space programs working in parallel or together, but rather a distinctly uncooperative and competitive race to the moon. Whoever got there first, in the minds of many people of the Earth, had won the Cold War.
It's lonely out in space.